Thank you so much for joining us for episode 420. And as promised, my special guest this time around is the WWE Hall of Famer, the ECW original, one of the all-time greats in the world of professional wrestling, Rob Van Dam. RVD, thank you so much for commemorating and making this episode very important to me. A year ago, I looked online the other day. A year ago, I kind of started this push, looking ahead to this episode, and started tagging you in Twitter and whatnot. So I really am honored and appreciate the fact that you're doing this.
Right on. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out so that I could do this. You were so persistent. I felt obligated.
Well, thank you. I really do appreciate it. And I want to talk about a few things, but let's talk briefly about wrestling. You are in the WWE Hall of Fame, former WWE champion, of course. All the accolades with ECW. What was it back in the day that made you want to become a fan? Because you and I are pretty close to the same age, grew up around the same time, and probably watching a lot of the same stuff. So who kind of inspired you to get into the business in the first place?
One of the first wrestlers that inspired me was Randy Savage's brother, Leaping Lanny Poffo. And he was unnoticed by design because he was just there to get the other guys over. That's how 100% of the matches were back in the day that weren't main events, the squash matches, the jobbers. But he thought outside of the box, and I really appreciated that. He caught my imagination by doing flying head scissors and just rolling up someone's back, landing on his feet. Just little things like that made him seem exciting to me, and that inspired me.
You obviously then get into the business and start going with it. How did you pick up? Because I actually have here from 1991. This is a Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I have all my old magazines from when I was in high school and whatnot. But you're in this year in review of 1991 as one to watch in 1992. So how do we go from, and I should have marked the page here. How do we go from this young, skinny guy here to becoming Rob Van Dam, to RVD? Where did you get the moniker? Because you're under a different name in the magazine here.
Yeah, I hadn't got the name Rob Van Dam yet, so I, like any traditional story goes, went to a wrestling school. There was a wrestling magazine, just like that one you're holding. Could have been that. No, it wasn't that one. It was because it was older, but it had an ad in it that said, send $5 for a list of all the pro wrestling schools everywhere. And so I did that, and I got several pages. It had some phone numbers. It had some addresses. I wrote a lot. I called a lot. I visited some, and I was just obsessed with the idea, totally focused. That's what I was going to do when I got out of high school. This was still in my high school days that I was doing this. And anyway, I ended up going to a man, the original Sheik, who just happened to live 45 minutes from my parents' house, which was great because I learned from the information that I sent away for that I was going to be traveling, probably really having to try hard to make ends meet if I was especially going to live in Boston, going to Killer Kowalski School, which I thought that was my plan. I was going to make it work no matter what it took, but I got to stay at home with my parents and have a short drive. And the Sheik had everything that was important to me. He had the credibility, the name, the history, everything. So that's how I started. And then it wasn't too long, actually, because that was December of '89 that I actually went into the Sheik's school. Had about a dozen matches in 1990, and then in 1991 I was impressing some people, and I had the first Ron Slinker, the guy that gave me the name Van Dam. He told me that he thought I was going to be world champion someday, way back then. And he was a well-known guy in the business, a veteran. And that things like that help give me the confidence. But before I met Slinker, I was taught by the original Sheik and his nephew Sabu. You just get ring time for the first couple of years. That's all you need. Doesn't matter what they do with you or what your name is or anything. So I had wrestled under a lot of monikers at that name, different variations of my shoot last name, or Robbie Z, or Polish Prince, or International Tiger, or American Patriot. It didn't matter. I was just taking the bookings, and that's all. It's really all Rob Van Dam was at first, and it really stuck.
When I work with a local independent wrestling company here as the ring announcer, but we have a lot of talent that comes in, and it's a training facility as well. And I think a lot of them have kind of their eye on the much bigger picture. And obviously you have to start off, like you mentioned, getting those reps in and getting that training done. Did you think 32, 33 years ago that, you would have this Hall of Fame career and have the stuff that you did in ECW and the stuff you did in WWE and the stuff that you did with TNA as well?
I'm sure that I didn't really think that much about it. I was gonna go as far as I could. And I mean, there was a time when I was like, when I first met the Sheik, when I was 18, where I was like 180 pounds maybe. And I was thinking, even if I have to be a referee for several years, however it works, I don't know. Because the guys were a lot bigger then. Now I'm a giant. But I really thought about what I loved. I looked up to these wrestlers. I just thought they were, bigger than life, like how awesome it must be. But I didn't really think about the side effects of being famous and actually impacting people's lives and having them look up to me, and having my peers respect me in such a way. I mean, there's several full circle moments where I have been in the ring with guys that I looked up to when I was a kid, and then here I am, toe to toe, possibly even, beating them. I might be a bigger star than them now. And that kind of stuff. I never let it sink in too far. I have I think a good perspective on it. So I don't take myself or the position too seriously, like I see a lot of people do, where they actually seem to feel like they're a more important form of life. I never got that, because I picked up a lot of genuinity along the way, genuineness. So I didn't just go from being a 14-year-old fan right to being the big star, or else I probably would have had a big head.
Absolutely. Talk to me about the transition to the world of cannabis, because you and I again kind of grew up in that same era. It was the war on drugs. It was Nancy Reagan and red ribbons, and drugs, including marijuana, were dangerous or bad, or they had all these labels on them, and it gave a really black eye, I guess, or a stigma, if you will, on that. And I think that you were impacted by that in your days in WWE. Now, fast forward to 2022, and it's more widely accepted, and that's really why I wanted to talk to you today. So talk to me about that kind of transition. And I read I believe you tweeted it not too very long ago, that you really hadn't tried it or experimented with it until you were 21.
Yes, that's true. And it's because of what they taught me in high school. It was a dangerous hallucinogenic. It was one of the most dangerous drugs. Stay away from it. And the more I got into fitness, I started realizing bodybuilders, a lot of the wrestlers that I looked up to, liked marijuana, and they applied it to a healthy lifestyle. So I was noticing some inconsistencies, and then some of the inconsistencies got to be so big that I couldn't ignore them. Like, how can it be the most dangerous drug when it's not even toxic enough to kill anybody? Like, not one person has ever smoked themselves to death. It couldn't even happen. They would choke on the leaves first, literally, before the toxic levels would cause a fatality. And so I thought, that's really worth questioning. I've always been one to question authority. And the more I looked into it, I realized that everything we were taught was just complete bullshit, and intentionally so. Completely intentionally put out there so that people would turn to other products where the rulers of the world would make more money off of it. Another fact that I found outstanding was that the federal government says it's completely non-medicinal, but then they have a pill called Marinol that they make that they give to cancer patients as medicine. And the hypocrisy really stuck with me. And now that we have over 2/3 of the states that have medical marijuana programs, which I was told a long time ago, forced to mandate, I'm waiting to see what's up on that. Nobody believes that it's completely non-medicinal, but it still is listed that way on the federal guidelines, on the Controlled Substance Act. It's a Schedule 1. Richard Nixon put it there in 1970 temporarily, and it's never been moved since. And so, a lot of people care about different things, but I started really caring about that. And even when I first tried marijuana at 21, which I gave into peer pressure, I didn't really want to. I didn't enjoy it at first. It was a while before I hung out with some of the guys that I would smoke occasionally, and it kind of like little by little I added it, to more of my routine, let's say. But as far as being an advocate, I can't stress enough how crazy it is that all the lies and misinformation that was intentionally put out there in the 30s, it still has people fooled. It's crazy.
Well, and I grew up with that same mindset. I stayed away from it. There were obviously times in college where it was offered. I turned it away. Here in Illinois, where I live now, in 2020 it became legal. Recreational use became legal, and in that time I have used it. And again, it's, to me, it's, if you are drinking alcohol, that's just as dangerous, if you will, then it's more dangerous, I should say, than
It really is. It really is. And not only that, I mean, because alcohol straight up kills not just, the drunk drivers and the violence, but straight up people can drink themselves to death, alcohol poisoning. It happens all the time. Cigarettes, when I was early into my smoking years, everybody was smoking cigarettes. It was way more popular than it is now. And the cigarette smokers would be pot shaming me. And I was like, but you don't understand, you're killing yourself. Like, you got a 50% chance of dying from long-term use if you keep smoking those cigarettes. They're loaded with hundreds of different kinds of toxic chemicals. I mean, come on, formaldehyde, rat poisoning, cyanide, all kinds of stuff. And the thing is that, that was worth me opening up some doors and doing my own research, and most people just want to follow whatever, just like now, since it's quasi legal, now people that were shaming before are open to it. And I understand that. And I'm glad, because I always knew that eventually it would be completely legal because of morality, because of common sense, because everything about it being prohibited was wrong. So the way I look at it, people don't have to care. If it doesn't affect them, they can choose whatever, but that doesn't make them any different than the people that really weren't for the end of segregation. It's no different than the people that really weren't for legalizing gays. It's just like the people that really weren't for legalizing alcohol during Prohibition. Times always change. And they're going to keep doing that. This is one of those times where I just see it just like those. We look back, like, how could people been so stupid as think that was the right thing to do? But that's how they've been doing it in our lives, and we're still going to see us crawling out of that hole.
Absolutely. Talk to me about RVD CBD, because how do you go from being an advocate for it to then having products out there, and kind of let listeners know the difference between CBD and, obviously I think you can get CBD anywhere. It's not the same as getting it as a recreational with the THC in it.
No, that's right. We can mail from rvdcbd.com anywhere in the United States. We can't do that with THC because it's a controlled substance. They both do come originally from a cannabis plant. Now you can grow it to be dominant in any area that you want it to because we know how to do that. But there's a history to this that you might find interesting because, I mentioned marijuana prohibition was all misinformation purposely pumped out there. The guy that did it was Harry Anslinger. He started in 1936. Horrible guy, horrible guy, head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. And in 1945, I'm pretty sure, the mayor of New York, Mayor LaGuardia, said, "Look, if I'm gonna keep this outlawed in New York City, let me test it myself and see if all these things you claim about it are true." Because of course you're saying that kids are becoming addicted to it, and their usage is increasing at an alarming rate, and it makes people violent, this and that. So Harry Anslinger actually said, okay, gave Mayor LaGuardia some stuff. He did a test, put out the LaGuardia Commission report. It's either 44 or 45. I gotta look that up because I like knowing the facts on it. But it refuted all the claims. All right, so it said no, it's not addictive. It shouldn't even be criminal. And if someone smokes too much of it, they might fall asleep. So his recommendation on that was that we legalize it. So Harry Anslinger buried the LaGuardia Commission report, and we were never allowed to test the plant again, ever. And we're just now, because it's a little, it's becoming legal. We're just now in these last several years experimenting and testing, and we're finding out, hey, it's not just a plant that just gets you high. There's THC is only one out of like 100 different components to the plant. We call them cannabinoids. So there's THC, there's CBD, which does almost everything THC does except get you high. There's CBN, there's CBG, there's THC1, and there's, like I said, there's over 100, and we're still coming out with them in products and being able to manipulate different cannabinoids to get the desired results while at the same time avoiding undesired effects. So that's where the science has been going for a long time. They were doing that 8 years ago easily in California. California always seems to be ahead. They legalized medicinal marijuana for the first of anybody in '96. But so now we know you can separate these different cannabinoids, and you can get effects. So CBD actually can heal you without getting you high. I tell people to think of it like this, because it tells our own body what to do, and it manipulates something that our own body produces. In our own body, we call it an endocannabinoid, and our endocannabinoid system is a message system that pretty much runs through our whole body. It's control of everything from bone density to healing to menstrual cycles and women, just everything you can think of. So with the CBD, it latches onto the receptors, and it kind of does like a diagnostics check throughout your whole body, and it fixes where you have problems. So some people say, is the CBD going to make me sleepy? It might, if you have problems sleeping. Like if that's somewhere where you need help, it may aid you in that. Otherwise, I wouldn't expect it to if you were using it in the daytime. But everybody gets affected different because of their own systems. And the 3 years that I've had my company, I've had such a wide range of benefits told to me. And I believe in real life over book life any day, by the way. That's another thing when it comes to what we were taught, you and I, about cannabis and what I've learned in real life.
Yeah, and it's a better alternative than taking opioids or getting addicted or dependent, maybe not addicted, but dependent upon prescription drugs. I've seen that in some of my own family's experiences with medicinal use of the product and CBD, and even some with the THC. I've noticed a difference not only in their, ailments, but also in their quality of life, and seeing that difference of what it was like before when they were using a prescription drug versus then a CBD or even something with the THC in it. So I'm sure you hear those kinds of stories all the time as well.
It's the best reward, is the best reward, just knowing that I'm doing something that's helping improve the quality of people's lives. It's great. And also, I've used a lot of product, and I created my product. My pain cream is the best in the CBD world. I've tried everybody else's before I came up with mine, and I tweaked it several times before we got it right. And I have people tell me that they've tried other products that did nothing for them, and that mine really helped them. And that's a great feeling, because there is a lot of bogus stuff out there, and certain states don't even have to pass tests like we do in Nevada and California. So you get some stuff at gas station that might not even have what the bottle claims it has in it. So I'm glad to be able to tell people I have the best product. My face, my thumbs are on the label. I stand behind it. And for sure, that is definitely the rewarding part, is knowing that I'm helping so many people.
Now,
Yeah.
obviously, the history in wrestling, you have a fan base there, but I imagine you're not just catering to the wrestling audience. You are obviously reaching out and affecting the lives of people who probably maybe never even watched one of your matches.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so. I mean, that is the desire, and as we grow, we're adding more products. There's something called Delta 8 that's really popular now. THC technically is Delta 9, and because that's a controlled substance, there's a cannabinoid profiles that give a very similar result in the body when it's metabolized. Delta 8 is one of those, which is becoming very popular. And as certain states are outlawing that, then you have the Delta 10, Delta 11. We're not gonna run out, I don't think, of any of these, but these are some products that I have also added to my umbrella. So it's not just the CBD for me. But that's, RVD CBD is kind of the umbrella that it's all under right now. But as the education grows, and as my company grows, I'll always be adding to it. There's something I don't even have called Kratom that I always tell people it works so good. It tastes horrible, but it works so good, and it works on your opiate receptors in your brain, just like the opiates. But it's made from a plant that's in the coffee plant family. It's a dried up leaf. And because it works so good, of course, the government's trying to control it. But in the meantime, it's something out there on the market that not enough people know about. So I'm really trying to put my brand on one of those so I can help get that out to people.
As we see more states legalize recreational use of it, I mentioned Illinois back in 2020, almost 3 years ago now. And I remember we were one of the first, and even in this area, our border states do not legalize it. And where I used to work, the office was above the dispensary in town. And I would walk out in the evenings to go home, and there were license plates from Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, all over the place. So we've obviously in Illinois seen a huge gain from that, because obviously it's taxed, and that's the government portion, I guess, getting involved with it. But I think it also maybe makes it a little safer, maybe breaks some of those misconceptions that people may have, because they're afraid of getting, if they're buying it off the street, so to speak, and getting it from a dealer, there's that maybe risk that they're not getting something that may be good for them. Is that, do you see that, or what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, people in general definitely feel safer getting it at a store than getting it on the street or from somebody. Often it's the same damn stuff, but it's a lot more expensive in the store, and the same vendors sell it, to both parties. But that is part of it. And living in places where it was prohibited, I felt like personally, I'm willing to pay a tax to see it legalized, because the other side of the fence is locking people up for it, making law-abiding citizens into criminals. Why? Because they have a plant, especially people that really really need it. Like people in the cancer clinics and stuff. I had experience with that because my evil ex had cancer, and I would go with her to the City of Hope, which was a big institute for cancer care, and it was their policy to not tell the people about it unless they brought it up. What kind of stupid policy is that, to let them suffer? So I saw people, talking to the nutritionist saying, I'm wasting away. I can't eat. I got no appetite. I'm too uncomfortable to sleep. Is there any advice you can give me? And knowing that it's cannabis, and we're in California where you can get it right down the street legally, it's their job to follow policy and to say, just keep on trying, and you can do little tricks like maybe put some powdered milk in your food and get a few more calories. And I was like, man, that's so inhumane.
Yeah.
Because I brought it up. As soon as I did, the lady was like, I'm glad you brought it up. Yes, this has helped a lot of people with nausea, with comfortable. I was just like, it hurt. It hurt to just know that people can be like that, and policies can be like that. And really, the more I've studied my government, that's exactly how the world is run. The nice guy does finish last. I mean, for better or worse, but I mean, marijuana is prohibited because it could replace 80% of everything. Rockefeller fought against it because Henry Ford wanted to make cars out of hemp that ran on hemp seed oil.
Oh, wow.
Rockefeller didn't want that. Beer, alcohol doesn't want people to use cannabis instead of alcohol. Tobacco doesn't want people to use cannabis instead of their product. Pharmaceuticals sure as hell don't want it because it's been said it could replace 80% of pharmaceuticals. And it's just it's something that they purposely attached the the stereotype and the stigmatism to it. It was a successful smearing campaign from 90 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's why I think anytime I can say something, or anytime it's a TV show that they make light of it, or that they normalize usage of it by showing people, like all of that's super important because it's changing the world in a direction that it's going to inevitably go anyway.
So, back in 2006, when you won the WWE Championship from John Cena, I was by the way, at WrestleMania that year that you won Money in the Bank, and I'll send you the link. We dressed as the Spirit Squad, and we did a cheer for picking up cheers, and one of them, somebody captured it and posted it on YouTube. It's specifically about you winning Money in the Bank. I'll send it to you, but
Nice.
There has been speculation through the years that part of the reason why you were kind of a short reign there with the championship was because of marijuana and those kinds of issues. Fast forward again to 2021, it might have been earlier this year or sometime last year, WWE rolls out a shirt, a 420 shirt for Matt Riddle and Randy Orton's tag team. Did you ever think you'd see a day where WWE is kind of acknowledging it? Like you said, we're kind of slowly chipping away at that stigma.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I don't think I would have ever been an advocate if I didn't know for sure that someday marijuana was going to be completely acceptable, and someday we're going to look back at it like it was as ridiculous as alcohol prohibition, or as slavery, or as not letting women vote, or as in the gay rights. I mean, everything. If the further you go back, the more ridiculous our society seems, and all these movements are important, and this is just another one. I mean, it's been a long movement, but eventually people are going to realize what I'm telling you about Nixon, what I'm telling you about LaGuardia, what I'm telling you about Anslinger. Like, there's nothing good to it. The only thing that holds people on to wanting to believe that is their thought that, well, my cousin Richard, he started smoking pot, and he ended up doing heroin. Like, whatever, dude. I can't speak for your cousin Richard, but that's not most people.
Right. Absolutely. Well,
he was going to do the heroin anyway. Richard was experimental. You don't even know, but he was blowing his buddies when he was in junior high school.
What's next for the RVD CBD brand? Are you going to be able to expand it out and do things with THC, do you think, at some point? I know you
Yeah,
can't.
we actually do have THC in California, and we have it in Oklahoma, and we're working to grow from that. There's an awful lot of there's an awful lot of meetings that don't go the way they look like they're going to. In other words, we kiss a lot of frogs before we meet the princess. And that's how this business has been. Like, people are so flaky in it. They'll be excited. Everyone's excited. I'm touring their facilities, and they're like, yeah, this is great. We're going to do this together and collaborate. And then they end up, we'll send you a contract. Where's the contract? Oh, I don't know. Shouldn't hear from my lawyer today. Where's the contract? I don't know. So much of it goes that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So too often I find and I'm always optimistic by nature, because there always is so much to look forward to.
Yeah.
For everything that goes south, there's 2 or 3 things that look positive, and that's always been my life. So, I don't want to talk specifically about things that may or may not happen, but there's always really good stuff. And we're going to be next weekend. RBD CBD will have a booth in Washington, D.C. at Exotica convention. The guy that runs the Exotica conventions also started doing a 420 con.
Okay.
And so we're kind of on board with doing all the cons with this guy so far. And there's a few around the country in a year. We've only done 2 so far, 420 and an Exotica in New Jersey. This will be the next one. But even at places like this, we get a lot of networking and a lot of partners and meet a lot of good people. And I'm really proud of my product. So I'm glad, especially if people are looking for a good product, I'm glad to be able to offer them what we've got.
Since you brought up Exotica, or the perception, the stigma of that as well, that's another area that has been, kind of frowned upon and looked down upon, by the masses, and obviously it's becoming more widely accepted, and we're seeing more on that front as well. People are talking about it, and I don't think it's as shameful or sinful, if you will, as it has been perceived to be so in the past.
Well, as we, you and I both been around a long time. What I've noticed, and I know that my circle of people that I'm around changes, so it's not like a complete fair apples to apples study. But when I was younger, it sure does seem like God and Jesus were around a lot more. And I think everyone's beliefs and their rules, their guidelines were all based on God's watching you.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that.
Yeah.
I really think that's behind a lot of and I think that that's changed. And I don't know if it's just because I got into the entertainment business 30 years ago and now I'm around crazy people. I mean, obviously there's still churches all over the place. Yeah. Sometimes I don't even notice. And then if I do notice, holy shit, they're on every block, you know?
Right.
So obviously that's still popular, but society is changing. You make me think about when I was like 5 or 6, my parents were trying to find the right church to put me in, whatever that pre-church study school, whatever that thing is. But I remember the comic book of Noah's Ark, and while he's building his ark, all his neighbors are partying, his girls, they're dancing. They're like, no, you're so crazy. What are you doing? And he's just like, you guys aren't doing God's way. And, if that story was completely true, I don't think I'm in the ark. I don't think I'm in the ark anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore to my understanding of the universe, life, everything in general. And it's not anything against, it's really just my firsthand observation, tells me I consider myself spiritual because I have a relationship with the greater power, the universe. And some theories say that I would be one and the same in manifestation realms. Either way, I know that it's there and I respect that. So, I really don't, just like always, I say I'm a platypus. I don't think I fit into a label. People want to label you so they can understand you. Yeah. They want to label themselves so they can feel like they understand themselves. I'm not like that.
Yeah. Everybody wants to have that, that feeling of fitting in or being part of whatever what they perceive at least is the popular.
I regret that so much. The feeling as a kid of having to feel like I fit in, getting made fun of if I didn't have the right jeans or shoes, like that stuck with me my entire adult life. And it's like I pushed back against conformity without even trying, because I'm just so much more comfortable being myself. And wrestlers, young wrestlers ask me for advice like, how did you get to be so different and be able to come up with moves and everything that's so different? It wasn't trying, it wasn't forced. I wasn't saying, let me be different. I was saying, let me not try to be like anybody else and let me just be naturally myself.
Do you think the wrestling helped with that identity, or say Rob Van Dam?
Yes, because yes, here's how I see that. There's times when I was a kid where the same qualities would be looked at as weird or strange. And then in around 96 or so, I started hearing like I'm one of a kind and I'm unorthodox. And I'm, and I didn't even know, because, we base a lot of our opinions of ourselves on feedback from the outside world, like we can't tell if by ourselves if we're good looking or ugly or whatever. We got to hear it,
Sure.
Not necessarily true with respect when it comes to your own principles and stuff like that, but that's where the conversation can get interesting. But yeah, I think hearing all of that and at first I was like, what do you mean I'm one of the, what do you think someone said they thought I was like the most gifted athlete in the business. I'm like, what? Why would you even say that? And they're, because you do this and that. I'm like, but what about Rey Mysterio? And they're like, yeah, but he's this big and you're this big, and everything is subjective. But just hearing those things made me really dive into it and feel like, man, I really want to celebrate being different. I love being different. I hate trying to fit in, especially because there's so much about the norms, about the followers, the limited thinkers that I repel against.
Yeah, well, an amazing career. An amazing conversation. I am so appreciative. Is there anything you want to add? And we mentioned rvdcbd.com. You have a website.
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug right now, go for it.
Yeah, I did. RobVanDam.com just had a facelift, so it looks pretty awesome. And for the next week or so, we're still collecting information on our mailing list, which you'll see at the bottom of every page. And we're going to be giving away some prizes at the beginning of December. Some exclusive shit. I have an exclusive comic book that nobody has. It's really good too. It's about some stuff we talked about. And I also have a little plushie, that
I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah, and someone over ordered or over delivered to somebody in England, and so it's something that I have that nobody else really has a supply of. So RobVanDam.com, fill out the mailing list and get a chance to win something like that. But also my YouTube page, I would like to get some attention there if people aren't familiar with it. All my social media is The Real RVD. YouTube's no different, but it's something that I keep at with. That's the way to keep up with me, because I do videos of my adventures. Today I'm uploading this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu event that I was at on Saturday. I thought I was wearing the shirt. It's something local that I support, and we're sponsored there, RVD CBD. These guys have jiu-jitsu competition. Everyone's smoking. It's sponsored by some local marijuana dispensaries. The guy that won the main event, I love this guy. He smoked all the way up, till he had to hand it off to his buddy. Went right into wrestling. When he made the guy tap out, his buddy was right there with the lit joint. Wow. And he put it right back in his mouth. And they raised their fundraising and stuff. But anyway, that's High Rollers, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's my video I'm uploading today. But that was an example. I just, I'll have a video of Exotica in Washington, D.C. I'll put that up on my YouTube page this weekend. I'm at a WrestleCade in North Carolina, and signing autographs and meeting up with a bunch of friends and stuff. So we'll get some video of that too. So YouTube at The Real RVD, subscribe, like it, tell everybody you know.
All righty, I appreciate it once again, Rob Van Dam. Thank you for being a part of this week's episode. I'll have all of the links he just talked about in the description for this week's episode. Friends, thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Thanks for spreading the good word.
Awesome. That was so great. I really, really do appreciate this. I can't thank you enough for it. So good luck with
Awesome.
everything. If you need anything, just let me know. And I'll plug and share everything that I can for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Congrats on the 420 and thanks for helping get the good word out on everything.